Greetings, human development students. Professor Westland here. So I just wanted to take a minute to check in with you. We are nearing the end of our semester together, and so that's exciting news, right? We're getting close to the end. But I wanted to just kind of give you a brief little communication or video talking about paper number 3. Some of you may be stressing out about paper number 3. And so I want to kind of alleviate that anxiety and give you some clarification so you will understand the expectations for this paper. So this is your third paper that you will be doing, very different from paper number 1, your intro paper, and paper 2, which was your goals paper. This is the paper where you plan your funeral. I know, sounds morbid. However, it's actually a really enlightening process to go through writing this paper. So here's what I want you to keep in mind. Number 1, there are clear instructions on what should be included in this paper. So make sure that you're looking at the syllabus, that you are gathering what you need to answer each of the prompts for what you should be answering or responding to or clarifying in this paper. You are writing this paper from the perspective that you are 90 plus years old. You're not writing this paper that you're, 18 and you died. That's not the perspective. I want you to put yourself in the mindset that you have lived a full life. You're 90 plus years old. You've lived a full life. At the end of that time, what does your life look like? Do you see or envision, or would you be desired to say that you have, a spouse or a partner and you have X number of children, X number of grandchildren, right? Is that important to you? When it comes to planning your funeral, is faith part of that process for you? Is it an important part of that process for you? Clarify that. Do you see yourself as having a traditional funeral, right? You want to have, all that comes with the traditions, or extremely non-traditional. I want my, friends to just take a 6-pack out to the beach and just throw my ashes out there, right? Just what is it that you want? There is no right or wrong perspective here, because it's about you, as all of our papers have been about, as I hope all of your growing experience in this class have been about you. How do you process and reflect upon this, right? This was a good time for me when I thought about this paper and assignment. Well, one of the things that motivated me was me actually having the conversations with my parents about what would you want. My parents are 80. And so they're getting up there in years. And so I want to know, I don't want to be the one left making the decisions. I would rather my parents tell me, what do you want? Who do you want to speak? What is important to you? Do you have certain music, foods that you would want to have in that celebration? And so, this is kind of a good time to have conversations with family members. Right? And again, don't approach it as morbid or as, telling your grandfather, I'm afraid you're going to die soon, so this is why we're talking about it. But more of, you're going to learn about your loved one by talking about this, because when I read your papers, I learn about you, because you're going to tell me how important was faith, how important was family or friends, or donating your body to science to find a cure for Parkinson's disease, because that is very important to you. What is important to you? And I'm going to learn about you. And if you ask these questions to your parent or grandparent, you're going to learn about them, right? And so it is a good maybe conversation to have at some point. But as far as this paper and you goes, make sure that you're answering all of those prompts, okay? One of the areas that I find students kind of avoid or skimp on and lose points for on this paper is the topic of cost. Believe it or not, it costs quite a bit of money to die or to bury yourself, whatever it be. And so I want you to be aware of that. Are you going to leave that to your family? Like, in other words, are they going to cough up 30 grand or whatever it cost? Are you going to prepare for that? My parents and I have already had these conversations. I know that they have purchased their plots to be buried at. I know that, they've taken care of, they already have the plans paid for. And so I will not incur the cost of burying my parents because that has been pre-planned. Is that something you want to do for your family? If so, how will you do that? How will you plan for it? How you prepare? My parents are going to be buried right next to my younger brother that passed away, my only sibling. And so where do you want to be buried if you're going to be buried in the traditional way? Is there a place that's important for that, right? Again, good conversations to have with family too. But I want you to document cost. And this should be quite a lengthy kind of listing. So if you're going to have food, how much is the food going to cost? If we're having flowers, if we're having a reverend or a minister or a priest or anybody speak, there's a cost usually that you give to them, right? Is there a cost for the actual plots will cost you if you're going to be buried in the traditional manner, right? So, you know, if you're going to, a lot of students will tell me they want to be buried in their home country. Therefore, there's a cost to be flown to your home country. And so, and to be buried there. So what is that cost? What I want you to factor all that in to really kind of think about this. And believe it or not, it might be shocking, but every semester it never fails out. Even though students approach this paper thinking it's very weird and again, scary and depressing maybe to think about death and dying, they actually tell me at my end of the semester, surveys, they tell me that this was a really enlightening paper, that, wow, they really learned a lot about themselves. Because again, the goal is for you to figure out what is important in your life that you want to honor at the end of it. I want to know if you're going to have a obituary or something like that. Who, you know, what does it say about you? Does it say that you actually became a physician's assistant, or does it say that you worked in you were a traveling nurse in the military, or what does it say that you did for your career? Again, this is your chance to put some of those goals from your goals paper into kind of a narrative format in talking about what you hope your end of life will reflect in that way. When we have a traditional funeral, we usually have a eulogy, which is when someone stands up and shares the life of this deceased person. And who would you want to share that eulogy? And what, again, would that eulogy or obituary, what would they say about you? All right, so I hope that you will embrace this paper. Keep in mind, it is a minimum 2 pages. I'm really hoping you go well beyond that. Okay? Minimum 2 pages of text, not including your cover page, from start to finish of lines of text, 2 complete pages. Again, you will just be docked 20 points for being short, because this is 100 points in this class and a test is 100 points. And I really think you can come up with 2 pages of content at the very least to share for 100 points that I'm awarding. So I'm really hoping you'll embrace this topic and use it as your chance to reflect in that way. All right, so I look forward to reading them, but again, just taking the time to give you some further direction on paper number 3. Happy writing, guys. I'll see you next time.